Joining us now is Tony Arterburn of Wise Wolf Gold and Silver. And, of course, you can get to Tony through davidknight.gold. Lets them know that you came through us. Thank you for joining us, Tony. It's been another interesting week, hasn't it, with gold and silver?
Interesting week. Yeah, when I got off air with you last week at this time, gold was trading around 5,500, 5,600 an ounce. And then the next day I woke up and I set prices and I started to see just the red on the screen. And the same thing with silver. It went from like $110 an ounce down to 70 something.
Yeah, it went down about 30% or something. Yeah.
Gold dropped almost $1,000 an ounce and then bounced back. So yeah, at the top it was 5,700 that's last week, and then down to 4,700 or so, and that happened in a 24-hour period. So yeah, we survived. Wise Wolf survived the largest downturn of gold and silver in history in a flash like that. So
wow. Yeah, I don't envy you. I don't know how you do it, because I tell you, this is, this is absolutely crazy. The big swings that are going back and forth. What do you think? I mean, some people have said that they think that, of course, a lot of people are getting out of Bitcoin, perhaps getting into gold. Maybe these guys are then selling off gold because they got to cover short positions that are starting to drop. What do you think was going on behind that?
Well, I think it's a lot of factors. The Warsh nomination carried a certain psychological weight to it. A lot of people went back to his previous remarks about a strong dollar and his support of things like Bitcoin and other things. And there was this feeling that, oh, well, the dollar is going to be strengthened. That was at least some of the press release that was out. But if you're following any of this or paying attention, you know, the Trump administration and Trump himself has talked about the need for a weak dollar. The whole premise of everything, that if there is a strategy here at all, the strategy is just a weak dollar. And the berating of Jerome Powell for not lowering rates over the last year. Yeah. I mean, you think that the new nominee is not going to just lower rates? I mean, that's where we're going. We're going to lower rates. We're going to print. We're going to expand the money supply. That's the entire system is built off of that. So I thought that was a false narrative that was launched. That pulled the price down a bit. But honestly, I think the system itself can't handle these prices the way that they are, David. I'm seeing it on my level. The wholesalers are now not even locking trades anymore. You can't get liquid for 7 to 10 days. It's a 3 to 4 week window to get paid out at wholesalers. The whole system is cracking because everybody's trying to sell it at once. And of course, there are buyers. The average buying from central banks of gold alone last year was 27 tons a month. 27 tons a month in the year of 2025. Oh. So no, none of the demand is going away. All the fundamentals are there. All the demand is there, but it's bottlenecked, and the prices are inviting, the speculation to sell and to trade and the whole thing. Even the London Exchange last week, quote unquote, air quotes, they shut down because there was an internet issue or something. They just shut down because these prices, you're swinging all over the place. It can put you out of business. Yeah. And I think the stress on the market is definitely showing up, but the prices will go back above 5,000 in gold for sure. $100 an ounce silver. We finally broke the paper market is breaking.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of factors here. And again, when people feel like, oh, well, it's the dollar's fine. Like that's the sentiment from like the Wall Street, the people that watch CNBC. They're like, oh, well, the dollar's going to be fine because now everything's going to come out in the wash. We're going to put everything through the wash. It's going to be fine, and it's not. So they may sell off positions in paper or do something and do profit taking in gold or silver, and then get into AI stocks. Or I heard the last segment that you were bringing in the show. And
where do they go?
Where do you go? And we can talk Bitcoin and other things. I think there's just a lot happening right now that are not normal market conditions, and I'm just happy to be here and still survive it. It's
congratulations.
Keeps me on my toes.
That's crazy. Well, I've been saying that wait till Trump does his pick. Now he picked somebody that I think is Warsh. I think is going to be a whitewash of what he really wants to do, right? But we've seen Trump do this kind of stuff before. Oh, look, he's got Cash Patel and Dan Bongino. Now we're really going to see the FBI get honest. Really?
Right.
So you think that anybody that thinks that Kevin Warsh is going to be honest with this stuff, if you think that he's not going to do exactly what Trump wants done, you haven't been paying attention to Trump or anything else.
Trump even joked, he's, I'll file a lawsuit if he doesn't lower interest rates. He even joked about it already.
That's right. He's going to lower interest rates and also probably do quantitative easing as well. Trump wants easy money.
This is the big print. I mean, and the book by Larry Lepard, he put this thesis out a couple of years ago. It's the big print. And it's one big massive push before they reset the whole monetary system. And I think that's what we're being primed for right now. As I was saying to you off air, these little signposts on the road, if you're paying attention, Tether has $187 billion market cap. Now, what does Tether do? Right? Tether, if you want to hold a digital dollar, it's tethered to the dollar.
Yeah.
You put in the system and they go buy treasuries or they'll buy gold or do something. It backs whatever 1-to-1 that you do. And they've had huge, they buy gold like a central bank now. They have Bitcoin holdings.
Yeah.
So just that one stable coin, $187 billion market cap.
And again, stable coin is, I think, it's like the masked ICE agents or something. Right? This is the mask that pretends that it's not CBDC, but it is CBDC. Right. It's got all the characteristics of CBDC. They made sure it had it. But it is Larry Lutnick, also a friend and pal long-term, post-pedophile conviction even. Larry Lutnick, a big pal of Jeffrey Epstein, and Tether is his baby. And he's now our Commerce Secretary. We look at this. We got a Treasury Secretary who is a Soros's right-hand man. We've got Larry Lutnick, who has been Jeffrey Epstein's right-hand man and working on the Tether coin and the stable coins and stuff like that, which they want to move us into. The previous Commerce Secretary that you had from the Trump administration was Wilbur Ross, who was a Rothschild agent all of his life. Does anybody get a clue as to what's going on with the Trump regime? I mean, it's crazy, isn't it?
One of my favorite memes in the last few years is just it shows the Earth and there's a arrow pointing towards it and it says, "You are here paying taxes to pedophiles." And it's like, it's just if you want to know where you are. And
That's right.
I always thought that was fun. But yeah, when you dig deep enough and you find the roots of all these things, it's why people have always been, you'd be skeptical of anything that gold's manipulated, silver's manipulated. Bitcoin, maybe not its origin, but somewhere along the way, and maybe for nefarious purposes, things have happened to Bitcoin or steered a certain way. That's certainly a potentiality. And I see the interconnectedness all. There's no white knight in any of this. But at the end of the day, we're in a monetary shift, historically the life which has never been seen. We've never actually gone through what we're going through now. There's no other historical precedent that's been set, to see a world reserve currency diminish the way that it is, like the dollar's doing, and this monetary reset happening with all the other countries banding together and gold reclaiming its place at the same time. It's I think a race to figure out where value is. So everything's being repriced and sold off and bought off, and I think even manipulated for reasons for accumulation. So we can certainly get into that.
And then, the reason we focus on physical possession of gold and silver is because you got these people like Epstein and Larry Fink and the rest of them who are always coming up with these devices to try to take everything from everybody. And that's the fundamental part of the great taking. How they have gone through and changed the UCC definitions and the hierarchy of, if there's a major financial collapse, the hierarchy of who gets to keep what. And it turns out that if you think you own a stock or a bond, you're way down the list. The brokers are going to get paid. The bankers are going to get paid. You're probably not going to get paid because you're further down the list if there is a great financial crisis that they have engineered. And so that's what's really behind all this stuff. That's why you got to get physical with things. And we've talked for the longest time about paper gold and paper silver, but again, they're pushing so hard on tokenizing and securitizing everything, and it's just the 2008 mortgage crisis on steroids. They take real things like real estate and houses, and they put it into this kind of artificial construct that they've created so they can manipulate and steal things from people. It's just amazing. Got a couple of questions for you, Tony.
Sure.
Radis Bro, thank you for the tip. He says, for Tony, now that the mystery of Bitcoin is over, and I don't know that we know the mystery of it, but certainly we can see the structure, the organization, the funding, the political stuff that's there, and see how that was all kind of centered around Epstein and these elites that are focused around him. And I mean, it's not just that he's one of the elites and he's partying with them. I mean, he's putting this together with the guys that many people think actually were Satoshi Nakamoto, the pseudonym, a couple of guys who were developers. He's putting this stuff all together. Anyway, he says, so what do you think is going to happen to Bitcoin maxis? Will they sell and change their grift? Or will they keep the Bitcoin grift rolling so they don't get poor? What do you think is going to happen with that?
I don't think Bitcoin's going away. I think, honestly, I'm a bit agnostic on all of this. I looked through a lot of the stuff that dropped, and there's some people that I follow that I've seen analysis on as far as with the Epstein involvement. He was a donor to MIT, so he's donating to these departments where they were working on Bitcoin in its infancy, past the publishing of the white paper and the first transactions that were done like January 3rd when Bitcoin, January 3rd, 2009, when Bitcoin came online. And of course, you go back to the white paper came out on Halloween, actually, in October 2000.
That's kind of significant considering Epstein, all his occultism and everything, is it?
They have, it's 1/3 and 10/31, and some other key dates in Bitcoin. You have the first pizza. They bought the pizza with it and everything else. But I don't think that Bitcoin is going away. I don't think it's going to completely tank or anything like that. I think, honestly, I'm wondering if there's some triangulation in all of this for more accumulation at a lower price. I mean, we've seen that it can easily hit 100,000. It'll go back. I think it'll be back above that sometime this year, maybe next year. But I think it has a story yet to tell. There's nothing like Bitcoin. So I don't know. That remains to be seen. I could be wrong, by the way. Yeah. I could be wrong, and I've always said that about my stance with Bitcoin, because fundamentally, I think what Bitcoin has done, if it does nothing else, even if it goes to zero right now, even if it crashed and became worthless, it changed a lot of people's minds. The people that actually started to look into it and look into the reasons why, or supposedly the reasons why the entire network was put into place, and what the philosophy of Satoshi was, and what it was built for. This is after the 2008 crisis, and started bailing out the banks too big to fail in jail and all that stuff. And that was an unprecedented government printing of currency, and that link between the central bank and the government, and all the rest that was happening to the money supply and the corruption. So I think Bitcoin changed minds. It definitely changed. It changed history. So we'll see what happens with it. I don't think it's going away, though.
Yeah. It's and of course, many people talked about the hijacking of Bitcoin, how it started out as a replacement for currency and for money, but then they turned it into something like a commodity. And then you get the people like Epstein and Larry Fink and these guys, and it looks like they want to take a MacGuffin and securitize it, make it into a token. And so it is. I look at it and it's just like, no, there's just too many layers and too many people like the ones who brought us 2008 involved. It's a hard pass for me. Sure. Another question for you. February 27th is the start date for the deliveries of the March contract. I've seen videos where they claim there will be a default. Is this true, or is this AI-generated garbage? Does Tony think there will be a default of the COMEX, with March being a delivery month? What do you think?
I think it's unlikely that there will be some massive default across the board, and it may be right now. I mean, these large institutions, you have to remember, they've got much more sophisticated equipment to run simulations, and they've got intel and things, and they'll be moving stuff around to try to avoid anything like that. But it's possible, but I would put that as a very unlikely. There's so much garbage floating around about gold and silver right now. There's so many grifters on the people send me stuff all the time I've seen people send me stuff like, "Hey, these dealers all over the country saying people are lined out their doors buying silver," and I'm like, "Really?" Because I have 2 shops in 2 states. I don't see any. What are you talking about? And then they'll send me stuff about, "Oh, did you see Trump is going to put silver as some sort of like securitized thing and put it into the strategic reserve, and all Americans must turn in their silver." I've seen so much stuff floating around so people can get clicks, but that might be one of those little drops, about the COMEX. You got to be careful of any of that stuff, or either doom or gloom, or if it's pie in the sky, and just kind of a middle road. The metals markets are insane.
Yeah,
right now.
That's right.
But I don't think they're catastrophic, and I don't think we're going to have this massive plunge either way.
Yeah, and a lot of people are looking at this and saying this is the end of paper stuff, because you've got the large exchanges are scrambling around for actual physical gold and physical silver.
Well, that's right. I mean, that game has been played so long, but now I think we're, like I've mentioned before, stepped out of the realm of where markets took us in the past, and we've entered into governmental financial warfare. This is between governments and large institutions. It's between militaries and their developmental arms and things of strategic stockpiles and things for both metals, not just to the monetary side for gold, but the industrial side for silver. So we've crossed a boundary that is no longer about just market forces.
Yeah.
So we're way beyond that.
That's right. Yeah. So when we look at the push to try to get everybody into stable coins, I think that's going to be a big part of it as well. But again, the physical aspects. We've got a couple more questions here. Steve says, we need to know, is Tony buying metals again? If so, why? And if not, why?
I never stopped. There was one, I paused on Friday of last week in the afternoon, just because I didn't know, the prices kept coming down so fast. I couldn't lock prices. We're literally flying a little bit blind right now. I can't lock anywhere. I can't. So no wholesalers will lock my price. If I get one to lock it might take me a month to get paid. So there's going to have to be some changes. I'm just rolling with the punches. But no, Wise Wolf is still available to buy product. But I would ask people, why are you selling if you don't have to? I would wait. You're going to get a better premium. Let this market stabilize. The reason that dealers are having a hard time paying out near spot like we used to, I'd be happy to pay out near spot. It's a happier customer. The problem is that there's nowhere to sell it to. And if you try to sell it, like a lot of the places that used to get quick turnarounds, they're not liquid. So you can't get out. And so these, dealers are buying it 20, 30% under spot. And people are mad at about that. Well, if you don't need to sell right now, don't, because what'll happen is all that bottleneck will get worked out. All the contracts will be filled and everything will be fine again. And the premiums and the buying percentages will come up because the market will stabilize. So I think selling right now is a bad idea if you don't have to.
Yeah, I agree. Trump Burger, what are Tony's thoughts on the gold and silver ratio?
It's starting to correct into its natural territory. I've read about this for years. I think we've just had this weird upside down mismatch of what the gold silver ratio is supposed to be. History shows us it's between 10 to 20 to 1 is about the way that you should price gold and silver. That's the way history's always been. We were 16 to 1 at the founding of the United States up until 1933. It's estimated that it's 17 to 1 geologically. So there's 17 ounces of silver for every 1 ounce of gold. So there's a natural component. I think it's finding its new balance. And I think the paper market has always done this. It's skewed the gold silver ratio so drastically that it was just ridiculous. At one time, it was 125 to 1.
Wow.
And that was at the first quarter of 2020. And at one time, and you couldn't buy silver for that price, by the way, because people were calling. I think it was $12 an ounce, and people were calling me saying, "I need to place an order for silver." I'm like, "There is none. I can't lock it anywhere because nobody wanted to sell at that price." So it's funny, you'd have a market saying this is the price, but there's literally no supply, and that's when I started going, wait a minute. So and that's the manipulation of the paper. Now it's just chaos everywhere. It's like you could have short supply and everybody wants to sell.
Yeah.
And so it's so upside down and all over the place. I think there's just the main reason is because we're seeing like the rapid decline of the dollar and these other nations moving out of the currency into something else.
Yeah, as I said the beginning of this week, after I had the big sell-off over the weekend, I said, this is another Yukon Cornelius buying moment because the fundamentals haven't really changed.
Nothing.
Markets will panic and, everybody will get wind of something and they'll go run chase it. And I remember there was, we bought a dog for my aunt once and we, because she loved dogs, but she just wouldn't make the leap to do it. And we knew which kind of dog she liked. And so we went to the breeder and they had a whole bunch of these dogs. It was like 10 or 15 of them or something, and they're like little Scottish Cairn Terriers, I think is what it was. And they'd come around, and they were all kind of feisty. And there'd be one of them would think that he heard something in the corner of the yard, and he'd go barking and running that way, and the rest of them would just follow him like a mob. They go running, they all go over there, bark, and then they realize there's nothing there. And then one of them thinks there's something in the other corner of the yard, and they all go running. They're just going back and forth. And I said, this is like the stock exchange here. This is one person thinks they see something, they all go run for the exits, or they all go run to jump on board whatever this thing is, and then they start chasing the next new false signal that's out there. So there's a lot of volatility that's going on here, but the fundamentals are still the fundamentals. The things that have fundamentally been driving this over and above any kinds of market manipulations, those things are still there. The stuff that you and I have talked about for the longest time. The financial system and the loss of trust in the U.S. dollar, the massive federal cumulative debt that Trump doesn't care or talk about at all, but he keeps stoking it more than anybody. And again, he set us on a whole new path of debt accumulation in 2020. Biden kept that same rate up, and so has Trump. He added another $2 trillion last year. We're going to be up to $40 trillion by the fall at the current rate, but I think he's probably going to have some new big spending programs that are going to happen before then. And so, again, that's one of the reasons why he is so focused on the interest rates, because the service charges on that debt are so crushing, and it's going to wind up taking such a huge chunk of the entire federal deficit. But something's got to break. It's not based on reality. And so I think that's the key thing. And the other key thing to think about is how these people have manipulated these investment structures. Stocks and bonds have been manipulated. And I'm not talking about them orchestrating a buy or a sell to move the market in different ways. I'm talking about how they have gone through and changed the UCC code so that when they create a giant crash like they did back in 2008, they can go in and take the title to your securities and your stocks and things like that, and how they don't want to just stop there. They want to tokenize everything so they can do that to everything. That's the key thing. That's why physical is so important, isn't it?
You're absolutely right. And it becomes more and more apparent that counterparty risk is a risk that you don't want to take. It needs to be a very small portion of whatever you do. I mean, just for the sake of transparency, every day I use Cash App, and I buy a little bit of stocks, like we're talking like a tiny bit, like lunch money. I'll not go out to lunch that day, and I'll pay for, whatever stocks I buy, and I'll buy some petroleum stocks. I know great friend of mine that I grew up with. I know the company he's an executive for, so I trust that company is going to find some oil, and so I buy a little bit of that and some silver mining stocks. But we're talking like nothing. Over time, it can compound, but I'm doing that with the full knowledge that I might not be able to cash those things in, or they can just inflate the amount of stock that they have. I mean, They literally can do that. That's just something that's always been the case. So you can get a little bit of a return on that, but where else do I put the majority of everything else that I do? It's either in my own business, something I can see, that I can hold, that I own, that is in my possession. I want less counterparty risk, and it may not be as fun or as exciting or thrilling, and you may not get these big returns the way that you could get in the traditional markets. But I don't think that in this environment with as many
Yeah.
with as many crooks as I don't think it's unprecedented, or at least they're just not as smart as their predecessors to, cover up their crimes and follies. And we just got a lot of crooks running stuff.
Oh man, they are really unbelievable sharks. When you look at the people like Epstein and Fink and so forth. I like this comment here, Tony. This is Mamak 1996. My unmarried daughters are buying metals, so when they get married, they'll be able to stay home and homeschool their kids. Now, that's long-term thinking. That's a great idea. Yeah, and that's the way you need to be thinking, the buy and hold strategy, and just to prepare for a rainy day, because storm clouds are on the horizon. They really are, and have been for quite some time.
Well, they really are. And again, those fundamentals don't change. We can't stop the collapse of the system that is, I think, right. It's inevitable. We can't stop. Now, what's it going to look like? Does that mean it's Mad Max and, it's the apocalypse or anything? I don't necessarily think it has to come to that, but there's so many scenarios on the table, and we can't control that outcome. You can control what you can control, like your ability to make good decisions based on the information, not what you want to believe. That's the hardest part about living in this environment.
Yeah,
because it's by design. I think the dichotomy is so stark, between the left-right paradigm and then people that fall into the Fox News camp or the MSNBC camp or whatever they are, MS Now, whatever it is now. It's become even, I think, more solidified, and that's really shocking. Because there's so much to understand about our current reality that just gets missed by the majority now. Because you have to pick a side, and what if both sides are wrong? That's where I think what we talk about. It's like the agenda is just to know the truth, and if I have the best information, I can make better decisions, not what I want to believe. It's just like I put Bitcoin on my logo, right, for Texas, and Bitcoin may crash out. It may be. I've always said this, and I'll write it to zero. It's fine. I can be wrong. But if I see information that changes my mind, I'll make a better decision. That's where I try to be as pliable as I can. And I'm definitely not a cultist around precious metals either. There's going to be drawbacks, and there's going to be downturns in any of these markets. We're living through crazy times. And think about this. It took 45 years for silver to break its all-time high. And then once it did, and this is just last year, and then once it did, because we'd always talk about it, this was the all-time high of silver. It's at 45 years, and then it hit, and it just broke, and it just went off to the races.
Yeah.
So that, look, we never, and nobody predicted that, by the way. Like, not really. I mean, the people, like, in an abstract way would say, well, these are the prices, it'll reset at some time, but nobody's sitting there going, oh, and January of 2026, nobody.
Well, and that's the thing. Gerald Slinty always says this as well. That's what I like about you and Gerald. You don't let them put you in a box, because then they have got you boxed in, and they're going to take you in a certain direction to a certain thing. But as Gerald Slinty says, I'm just talking about trends. He goes, this is what I see happening. I don't like it, but I'm not going to deny the reality of it because I don't like it. And that's the key thing. We look at this. I never had any love of gold or silver. I was never a coin collector or anything like that. But when you start seeing what is happening with the government and these other financial things, and you see all of these scams on Wall Street, just one of them after the other, and huge scams where they lay these things out and work on them for decades, and then take everybody down. It's like, I just want to get away from these financialized sharks that are up on Wall Street and on at Jeffrey Epstein's island and all the rest of this stuff. I want to get away from these people, and that's why I look at something that I can physically hold and get away from these structures, get away from the banks as well. And so that's a key thing, I think.
I'm with you 100%, and obviously that's what I do. But and I think it'll pay off, and then it's maybe not as exciting about some other things, but it's yours. you know.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's somebody, one of your listeners called me yesterday. I was on my way to the refiner in Dallas and asked me about 90% US silver. It's like, why would somebody buy that right now? I was like, well, for me, you're buying it at spot. I think it's one of the most underrated things, because people got mad when they go to sell it. They're like, well, I'm not going to getting anywhere near the melt value of this silver. And I'm like, because everybody's trying to sell it once. If you would just stop doing that, if you hold on, it usually has a higher premium than everything else. There was times we were seeing $10 disparities on price per face dollar in normal markets. Like, so if you had a face dollar is 10 dimes, 4 quarters, or 2 half dollars. And I remember thinking, wow, that's just a crazy premium, because we would sell stuff way below the premium. And I would see that all over, JM Bullion and Atmex and other places. And so this inversion that's happened, where it's just so much hit the market, and then people are mad. They're like, well, that 90% didn't work out for me. It's because everybody is trying to sell it. If you just hold on, you'll actually have a better asset. And now is a great time to buy it, honestly. And that's what, by the way, that's what I did. So, because I know on a long enough timeline, that silver quarter or silver half dollar is going to go a long way,
Yeah.
So we're just pricing things in dollars. We're trained to do that. We grew up with it.
That's the thing about zero hedge. That's kind of their timeline. On a long enough timeline, there is zero hedge. In other words, we're all dead, right? And, which is coming from a site that's not known for its Christian perspective or anything. That's pretty good. You can't hedge against some things, but what's that?
It's a quote from the movie Fight Club.
Oh,
that's where they got that. That's why the guy's name is Tyler Durden on Zero Hedge, because that's a quote. And on a long enough timeline, the survival rate for everyone drops to zero.
That's where they got it.
It's based off actuary tables and insurance.
Yeah.
And
I never saw that movie. I guess I have to go back and see that movie for the cultural references.
I don't know if you'd like it. It's one of my.
Yeah, it didn't look like anything I'd want to see, but there's so many cultural references.
Cup of tea, David, but definitely one of my all-time favorites from my youth. So it's a Generation X movie for sure.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. Did you ever see it, Travis? He's nodding his head yes. So I guess I just get him to tell me about it, and I spare myself the time.
Yeah, you just get the cliff notes from Travis. I don't think I'd just sit down.
I could ask Grok to summarize it for me.
Oh.
Let it hallucinate a little bit, make it more interesting. I don't know. Yeah. Well, thank you, Tony. I got a quote here from Gard Goldsmith from earlier when we were talking about Bitcoin. He says, well, I know who invented gold and silver. He invented other elements as well.
That's true.
It's been around forever. That's absolutely true. Well, thank you so much. And it is a crazy environment, and I don't envy you at all. But hang in there. It's probably going to keep up for quite a while. So you're going to be able to give us all advice when the dollar steps into hyperinflation. You'll tell us a little bit about how you managed during the hyperinflation of silver and gold.
I just want to last. Just get there. I just want to endure it. So
that's right. So you're learning, you're getting some valuable training for when we all go into the situation where, you go into the grocery store and all of a sudden that loaf of bread has gone up while you're in the store, and then it goes up before you get out of the store again. So
I think it's closer than we think.
Thank you so much, Tony. Again, Tony Arterburn, Wise Wolf Gold and Silver. And a key thing, like he's talking about there, is the averaging of the costs of the dollar cost averaging by gradually accumulating things over a period of time, making it a savings program to start to get away from this corrupt system that we've got here. And try to get something that is going to be not as easily manipulated. They can manipulate it, but I think we're at the point right now where paper gold and silver is going to be exposed for the fraud that it is, for the derivative that it is. And I think that once that happens, that's going to take away some of their tools to manipulate gold and silver. I think that'll be a good thing. But anyway, Wise Wolf Gold and Silver, and you can get to them through davidknight.gold. Thank you, Tony. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dave.
Have a good day. The common man. They created Common Core to dumb down our children. They created Common Pass to track and control us. Their Commons Project to make sure the commoners own nothing. And the communist future. They see the common man as simple, unsophisticated, ordinary. But each of us has worth and dignity, created in the image of God. That is what we have in common. That is what they want to take away. Their most powerful weapons are isolation, deception, intimidation. They desire to know everything about us while they hide everything from us. It's time to turn that around and expose what they want to hide. Please share the information and links you'll find at davidknightshow.com. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. If you can't support us financially, please keep us in your prayers. davidknightshow.com.